Gen X hearts love differently, and that's why they never truly let go. If you're Gen X, you already know this feels different. You don't love loudly. You don't post about it. You don't chase closure conversations for months. But when you love someone, it stays. And here's the part most people don't understand about you. Even when it's over, it's not fully over inside you. Have you ever noticed that? Years can pass. Life changes. People move on. But there's still that one person your mind quietly returns to when the world gets silent. You don't obsess. You don't stalk. You don't talk about them constantly. But you remember. And this is where it gets interesting. Gen X didn't grow up in an era of emotional oversharing. You learned to survive your feelings quietly. You didn't have relationship podcasts. You didn't have therapy TikToks. You had silence, independence, and a strong belief that vulnerability should be controlled. So when you attached to someone, it wasn't casual. Psychology research suggests that people who grow up in emotionally restrained environments often form deeper internal attachments. They may not express everything outwardly, but internally, their bonds run extremely deep. That's you. You don't fall easily. But when you do, it's layered. And that's why letting go doesn't work the same way for you. Here's the twist. You don't miss people in dramatic ways. You miss them in flashes. A song in the car. A quiet Sunday afternoon. A random memory that hits you while you're making coffee. And suddenly, you feel it again. Not the chaos, not the breakup, but the connection. Because Gen X love isn't loud passion. It's emotional imprint. The studies show that emotionally self-reliant individuals often process heartbreak internally and privately. They move forward externally, but their nervous system remembers the safety they once felt. That's why you can build a new life and still feel something when their name comes up. But most people miss this. You don't hold on because you're weak. You hold on because you loved with intention. When you chose someone, it wasn't impulsive. It wasn't based on validation. It was based on character, shared silence, emotional safety. You loved who they were in the quiet moments. And Gen X hearts don't detach from quiet safety easily. And this is where it gets deeper. You were raised to be independent, self-sufficient. Handle it yourself. So when someone finally made you feel emotionally understood, it wasn't small, it was rare. And you don't need constant texting, you don't need public affection, but you need emotional steadiness. And when someone gave you that once, your body memorized it. Behavior experts often notice that long-term emotional imprinting happens strongest in people who don't attach frequently. The less you bond, the more powerful the bond becomes. That's why you can go years without loving deeply again. Not because you can't, but because you don't do surface level. Here's another truth. Gen X loves in silence. You may not tell them you still think about them. You may never reach out. You may never say, "I miss you." But your loyalty doesn't disappear just because communication did. And that confuses people. They think if you're quiet, you're done. But silence doesn't mean absence for you. It means protection. You don't beg. You don't chase. And you withdraw with dignity. But internally, the story stays unfinished longer than you admit. And here's the part that might hit you. You don't just miss the person. You miss who you were with them. Because Gen X doesn't open emotionally often. So when you do, that version of you feels rare, authentic, alive. Letting go of them sometimes feels like letting go of a version of yourself. And most people don't talk about that. You also struggle with what if, not loudly, not obsessively, but quietly. What if timing had been different? What if we had communicated better? What if pride didn't get in the way? Psychology research shows that unresolved endings create stronger mental loops than clear closures. And Gen X didn't grow up being taught how to emotionally process endings. You were taught to move on, so you moved on physically, but emotionally. It's slower. And this is where it gets powerful. You don't let go easily because you don't love easily. Your love isn't disposable. It isn't seasonal. It isn't based on convenience. It's based on shared struggle, shared silence, shared growth. And those things don't evaporate. But here's the shift you may need to hear. Holding emotional respect for someone isn't the same as being stuck. You can honor what you felt without living in it. You can acknowledge that it was real without believing it's the only thing you'll ever have. Because Gen X hearts also have something else: resilience. You've survived recessions, cultural shifts, personal losses, identity changes. You adapt, quietly, strongly. So while you may never fully erase someone from your emotional history, you also don't crumble without them. And that's the difference. You don't let go easily, but you also don't fall apart. And here's the final realization. Your depth is not a flaw. In a world that treats relationships like temporary entertainment, your loyalty feels almost foreign. But studies consistently show that long-term emotional bonding correlates with higher relationship stability and deeper satisfaction over time. You were wired for lasting connection, not quick sparks. So if there's someone from your past who still lives gently in your memory, that doesn't make you weak. It makes you intentional. But don't confuse memory with destiny. Sometimes people imprint on you because they were meant to shape you, not stay forever. And Gen X hearts eventually understand this. You don't let go fast, but when you truly close the chapter, you close it with wisdom. If this felt personal, it probably is. Tell me something honestly. Do you think Gen X loves deeper than people realize? And if this resonated with you, subscribe for more psychology insights that speak to the quiet parts of your heart.